Trying to refill my rations. I'm trying to refill my rations. Here's a chart I made showing my excitement/optimism levels since they announced Assassin's Creed Shadows. As you can tell, there have been some inconsistencies. After all this time, plus the time since we got the last big Assassin's Creed title, I can finally say it's actually okay. Now wait, before packing it up and heading straight to the comments with shill saved to your clipboard, hear me out. Cause man, do I ever know that this game, nor Ubisoft, has the reputation it used to. We'll get to that. But with Assassin's Creed Shadows, I feel like they realize they can't just keep going the way they were, and after this, if the game doesn't fail miserably, they will have to drastically change up the formula. There's still too much copy-paste going on from game to game here, with way too little innovation besides new region, new story. Now when you see a Dark Souls 3 to Sekiro to Elden Ring leap, now there's innovation amid a formula. Now like a lot of big media these days, Ubisoft is relying way too much on the title of a franchise to carry the torch of their ship of Theseus. However, they lost the blueprint to the ship. Assassin's Creed has so little to do with Assassin's Creed at this point that I'm sure they'd love to rename the franchise to Animus or something if they could without destroying Ubisoft more. As long as they've got the hidden blade and there's parkour, it's Assassin's Creed. That much has been established. When in reality, the franchise could just be called DNA Memory Warriors. But after dumping dozens of hours into this game, it's not the terrible, awful, horrible family murderer that most people want it to be, but it's also not great by any means. It's more of what we're familiar with enough features, in my opinion, to make it worth playing. And speaking of which, the gameplay has been ramped up quite a bit this time around, focusing a lot more on character player builds rather than the constellation of confusion they had with Valhalla, because for some reason they wanted it to be an MMO or something. Now these trees for both characters actually make sense, because it's not just a heap of percentages and numbers, it's all skills and bonuses to the way you prefer to play. My biggest question, once again, is how can an enemy just walk off having this happen to them? Oh, and they've also added prone to your stealth gameplay to quite literally immediately escape your enemies, because if Pokemon can hide in tall grass, so can you. Plus, you know how the game is called Shadows? Well, guess what, Shadow fans? You can now pretend like enemies can't see you when you're standing right there, and they just ignore you out of pity or something. All right, come over here so that guy doesn't see you. There we go. Yeah, there we go. See, he doesn't even see me. That's why this is called Shadows. Because the shadows beat the game for you. Oh, and for the Ultra fans, they brought back boat combat. It's a little different this time around. Instead of this, let's hear the roar of this beast. It looks like this. Yeah. That's still better than Skull and Bone. However, the parkour is also a mixed bag, because as much as I've always loved the parkour in AC titles, I've also always hated it. It's the coolest trait they took from Prince of Persia to make their franchise really stand out, and yet it's always been the buggiest, most brutal experience at times. But I will say, this is my least hated version of the parkour they've done since Unity and Syndicate, which was good, and that is that. In Shadows, there's way more focus on specific surfaces instead of just climbing whatever the heck is in front of you. The grappling hook is fun. Yasuke not being able to parkour is hilarious and fitting. I like it. All in all, it's just a more polished version of the parkour you remember. Shadows really isn't gonna amaze anyone with the combat or gameplay. It's more so just well done dumb fun, where you can see the accumulation of them applying what fans loved about the past games and actually getting rid of the garbage we didn't like. But going back, if you remember one of the major things Ubisoft tried in Valhalla, it was base building. And it was terrible. You know, we've got Ubisoft giving people total freedom with a Far Cry map editor, and they gave us this garbage? Shadows actually corrects that unforgivable abomination by letting you build your own base, and you've got your buildings that add bonuses or stuff that adds absolutely nothing, or cats everywhere. And usually I don't care about this kind of stuff at all in games, but I actually found myself doing some random garbage. It probably looked terrible, but I really think they did want to make Shadows feel packed with activities that actually do something other than add gear to your, let's be honest, incredibly dated design inventory. There's little things like this that benefits both of your characters with their skill mastery, and the activities can be monotonous, but they're not super dragged out or boring either. And if you don't want to do them, you really don't have to. I played most of the game ignoring them entirely, focusing on the story, before realizing that I actually didn't hate doing that stuff. And there's a lot of stuff in a big world. And Ubisoft usually does a pretty good job with open world maps, and Shadows has a fantastic design. Well, actually, maybe 75% fantastic, because if I'm honest with you, the other 25% is pretty much infuriating unclimbable hills with so much foliage that you will disappear into it, gasping for air as you slide down the hillside, your horse begging for forgiveness for whatever it did to wrong you, to bring it into the pain of the forest. But the rest of the map, now that's pretty. I mean, a lot of it looks pretty much the same, but it's beautiful. It's detailed. They have put so much effort into each and every, not you, area of the game. The cities are unbelievably massive and layered. The outlands and separate regions have so many places to go, and I mean, sure, a lot of those locations don't really add much or are just for sightseeing, but I've gotten to the point where I kind of enjoy having that stuff around, and especially to this level of detail, because it just makes it not an empty space. And Ubisoft finally made a Seasons Pass worth putting into a game. And I do mean the seasons literally pass. And don't quote me on this, but there's rumors they're inventing new seasons to add in later. But it is crazy how much of a difference this makes in the game. Now, I remember Hogwarts Legacy doing a really good job, but Shadows makes you feel like you're in an entirely new map. The trees change color and lose their leaves. The fields and crops rotate. It's honestly such an experience-changing detail that adds so much, with the added mechanic of a refresh, bandits returning, enemy forts reoccupied, towns and people looking and dressing for the conditions. It doesn't add too much to the gameplay besides hiding bushes not being there in winter, but it looks pretty, so I was happy with it. And the seasons also flow seamlessly with the campaign, which, now this is mostly spoiler-free, so you can skip this part if you just want the whole story to yourself. Speaking of which, the story itself, excellent. How it's executed, mixed bag. Pro, the story has some great characters and even engaging side ones. Con, they take you on way too many follow the character moments. Pro, at least there's an auto follow button now. Con, it's still kind of lame. And it goes like that a lot. And it doesn't exactly ruin the story, but it does drag things out at times, especially in the first 3 or so hours after the intro to the game, which felt so weird. Everything was hyped up in the intro, and then you get put into a very slow-paced segment that almost felt like it was quickly thrown in there, because after you get through that part of the game, it just immediately picks up again. But you know, the story exceeded my expectations, and it covers some pretty real moments, which I was thinking they would just completely ignore. You know, more adult subjects in the mature-rated video game about late 1500s Japan. A lot of games are getting scared to even touch on more intense subjects. And if that's the trend, it's just gonna lead to more dustboards, where the most sensitive topic is about anxiety. But Shadows just tells a good story in general, giving you the freedom in a lot of the conversations to pick a direction. But I'll be honest, it took a bit to get into it. The beginning was really good, and you can tell they poured their heart and soul into really building up these two characters. And then it kind of stopped being great for that 3 or 4 so hours. Like I said, for some reason, and maybe it was just my game, the cutscenes and the animations were awkward at best, with people sometimes hardly moving, just their mouths. There were so many weird pauses and breaks that interrupted the flow of dialogue, and it was good dialogue, so it kind of just ruined that moment. But you get through that, and then Yasuke comes in, and the story and cutscenes get ramped up again. That original emotion and impact comes right back. But the campaign, to me, is the most engaging story they've told since Cassandra and Odyssey. Specifically because Alexios drove me insane after the first couple hours. I was fully expecting a serious imbalance of character development on either Naoe or Yasuke, just cause they really haven't done that since Syndicate, and Syndicate was on a much smaller scale. However, I found that they really put a lot of effort into making both of the characters interesting and engaging, which, credit where credit is due, is pretty impressive. And another thing, and I'm quite conflicted on this one, the music. The music can be absolutely powerful in moments, and then, well, you get some really strange music that makes it seem like I'm playing Red Dead, but in Japan. Now, I'm all for music variety, so when I'm out riding my horse or fighting some dudes, usually those scores play and hit so dang well. But then you'll get the most emotional cutscene, and the music just feels so out of place. Like, it's unique, sure, and it's not bad or anything, it's just not really fitting the moment. So here's the deal. In my opinion, I like Shadows. It's not the greatest Assassin's Creed game. It's not the best Ubisoft title. It's got some annoying issues still, some weird animations. But when I sat down to play for an hour or two and then accidentally played for 10 hours straight, it's a lot better than I was expecting it to be. Thing is, Ubisoft either needs to innovate or else they'll just always be known as they are today. And that is, unfortunately, is the company that makes games you wait to buy on sale. Which, why wouldn't you just always? That seems to make a lot of sense with how freaking expensive games are today. Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild, God of War, Resident Evil on multiple occasions. I mean, even Origins. Sometimes you gotta take massive risks if the franchise is getting repetitive to escape the label of being too formulaic. You can love steak, but if you eat it every single day, you will get tired of it. You can add new sauces or spices to shake things up, but at the end, it's still steak. Shadows isn't this abomination the loudest voices are wanting it to be. It's just simply another title in the franchise that jumps between great and terrible, but in the end, enjoyable. I'd say it's deserving of probably a solid 8 in my books. And why? Mostly because of the kittens.